50 spine-chilling horror stories revealed, haunting tales for sleepless nights in the eerie rain in the quaint suburb of Willow Creek. Under skies that draped their secrets in shadow, dark tales began to surface in the night. Rain pounded relentlessly on rooftops, turning the streets into glistening mirrors that whispered forgotten stories. With each drop, a chill crawled down spines, making children shudder as they tucked themselves into bed, their imaginations ignited by the eerie atmosphere. And if you wandered the empty streets after dark, you might even hear the faint rustle of something sinister, the echo of restless spirits stirring. It started one dreary evening when 15-year-old Maddie Morgan, feeling invisible among her high school peers, turned to her dad, Jason. With her phone lighting up the corner of the darkened living room, she proposed a ghost story to bond over. As they settled into their threadbare couch, the tension in the air wrapped around them. "Have you heard about the missing girl, Emily?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "They say her spirit wanders these streets during storms, looking for someone to take her pain away." Jason's heart sank. He just lost his job and felt the weight of his failures pressing down on him. Yet, something about Maddie's fears stirred a flicker of familiarity. That memory, buried deep, pulled at his mind. But how could he entertain ghost stories in a time like this? Then, the first flash of lightning split the sky, followed by a thunderous boom that rattled their windows. In the heart of Willow Creek, chatter shifted as Mrs. Granger, the beloved bakery owner known for her sugary confections and warm smile, vanished without a trace. Friends began to whisper, casting wary glances at one another. Suspicion lurked under shingles and porches as if the rain summoned dark thoughts. The barbecues and block parties of the past now felt like distant dreams overshadowed by an enveloping sense of dread. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Maddie couldn't shake the image of Emily's ghost as the rain intensified, each drop sounding like whispers of lost souls. With her father's tentative nod, she grasped at hope. Together, they sought Mr. Thompson, the reclusive neighbor who had spent years unraveling local legends. His gruff exterior softened at the chance to be part of this unraveling mystery. "It's not just a story," he warned. "These spirits don't abide by our rules. They feed on fear." The words hung heavy in the air as the night pressed against their windows. The weight of their respective struggles, Jason's sense of failure and Maddie's insecurities, merged into the storm, creating a tension thicker than the rain. As Maddie uncovered a clue that stemmed from their family history, a shiver danced down her spine. It whispered secrets of the past, tantalizingly close yet hauntingly out of reach. Amid the shadows, secrets started spilling into the open. Would facing the unknown unite them against the encroaching darkness, or would the fear consume them whole? As thunder growled angrily outside, one thing became clear: the clock was ticking, and the deepest mysteries were just beyond their grasp. The streets of Willow Creek lay drenched in silence, each shadow cloaked by the storm's persistent gloom. Thunder growled like a caged beast, urging Maddie and Jason forward as they made their way to Mr. Thompson's house. The thought of unearthing the truth in the midst of such despair filled Maddie with a mix of dread and excitement. If Emily's spirit roamed these very streets, perhaps they stood on the precipice of something significant, something that could finally quench the haunted waters swirling around them. Mr. Thompson's old porch creaked under their weight as they approached. His house seemed alive with whispers, and Maddie couldn't shake the feeling that the very walls had ears. She knocked, the sound swallowed by the rain. A moment later, Mr. Thompson's door creaked open, revealing the gusty, damp air swirling behind him. His eyes were weary, as though he carried the weight of the lake's mysteries upon his back. "Come in," he said, his voice gravelly yet inviting. They stepped inside, and the scent of old books mingled with the earthy smell of rain-soaked wood. The living room felt like a refuge from the storm, but the oppressive air gnawed at their hearts as he beckoned them to sit. "I sense you've come searching for something," he said, narrowing his eyes. "What is it you wish to know?" Maddie hesitated, then cleared her throat. "The story about Emily and Mrs. Granger." Something isn't right in Willow Creek, and we want to understand. Mr. Thompson sighed, his features darkening. Those who linger in sorrow rarely find peace. Emily's tale is tied deeper than you realize. She was drawn to the bakery where Mrs. Granger worked, like it was a beacon in the gloom. He leaned in closer, the shadows sharpening the cracks on his face. But there was something insidious lurking beneath those sweet confections. The bakery holds secrets, a darkness that has satisfied the spirits of the past. While he spoke, Maddie felt an inexplicable chill radiating from the old man. An echo of pain reverberated through the room, the resonance of past lives entwining around them. "Please," Jason said, his voice breaking. "What do you mean by darkness?" Before her disappearance, Mrs. Granger often whispered about the sweet price of her recipes, Mr. Thompson continued, his tone a grave warning. She said to accept ingredients from a dark source could turn even the most innocent dish into a vessel of despair. Maddie's heart raced. What does that mean? Was she using something evil? Mr. Thompson looked between them, the weight of knowledge glinting in his eyes. That's what you need to discover. If you dig deeper, you may unearth what both Emily and Mrs. Granger sought and what perhaps still lurks within those old bakery walls. As thunder rumbled again, a sudden sharp knock echoed through the house, vibrating against the walls. All three jumped, staring wide-eyed at the door. Mr. Thompson's features tightened, terror etched into his brow. What now? It's too late to turn back, Maddie whispered, heart pounding. The truth felt more menacing than ever. The door burst open, and the wind howled like a banshee, flinging rain into the room as a figure cloaked in shadows stepped inside. Their breath caught as the figure revealed a face carried by whispers, pale, haunting, but achingly familiar. Maddie Morgan, it rasped, drawing their eyes. You seek the truth, but the truth desires you. The room filled with an icy dread, every breath a struggle as they realized the depths of their exploration had awakened something they couldn't control. Was it a spirit that still roamed, or something far worse? As the figure stepped closer, piercing through the thick air, fear twisted painfully in Maddie's stomach. What did this mean for them? And how far were they willing to go to uncover the secrets of their town? With a scream stuck in her throat, she reached for her father. The very walls of Willow Creek quaked with an impending storm of revelation, but the question loomed large: would they survive the truth that sought to consume them? Maddie's heart thudded in her chest, the echo filling the silence of the living room like a drumbeat of dread. The figure's eyes glimmered with an unnatural light, drilling into Maddie as if uncovering her secrets, layer by slow layer. She felt the air thickening, each breath more strained than the last. Who are you? Jason croaked, his voice trembling. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a gaunt face, shadowy hair cascading like a funeral shroud. I come from the depths where despair lingers, bound by choice and consequence. Maddie felt as if she were sinking, lost in the depths of those words. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a rush of cold air sent shivers down her spine. You must understand, the truth is never a simple thing. It bears a cost, the figure continued, its voice a haunting melody interwoven with the toll of sorrow. Cost? Maddie whispered, frantic. What kind of cost? Only those willing to accept their own darkness can uncover the secrets locked within the bakery, it replied, taking a step closer. Emily understood this. But she was tempted, and her choice lingers still. Jason gripped Maddie's arm, his knuckles pale and rigid. We have to get out of here. This isn't right. But before they could retreat, Mr. Thompson shook his head, his expression a mixture of fear and desperation. You must listen. Whatever bond Emily forged, she did so for a reason. That bakery had harnessed something powerful that has twisted through generations, feeding on the fears of this town. You cannot escape the truth. The figure chuckled softly, a sound that curdled the blood in Maddie's veins. What will you sacrifice to find Emily's fate? What darkness will you bring to the light? Maddie felt the walls closing in around her, a tightness squeezing her chest as shadows danced at the corners of the room. That name Emily had stirred something deep within her, yet she was terrified of what it beckoned. I don't know if I can, Maddie finally confessed, her voice breaking. You already possess the strength, or you would not have come. The figure leaned in, its breath chilling. Emotions can create, yet they also destroy. The bakery offers a taste of both. Will you partake? Another clap of thunder rattled the house, and for an instant, the figure's face morphed, revealing a flicker of desperation intertwined with despair. Maddie shuddered, caught between the allure of the truth and the horror of what it could mean. What happened to Emily? Jason demanded, his courage flaring. The same fate that awaits anyone who forgets what matters most, the figure replied ominously, retreating a step, but not breaking eye contact. You must choose, uncover the past and grapple with your burdens, or let the shadows remain unchallenged. What if we fail? Maddie asked, voice quivering. Failure is a cost of its own, it said cryptically. But here, solutions carve paths through misery. Before they could respond, the figure dissipated into the shadows like smoke, the air returned to stillness. Silence enveloped them again, heavy and suffocating. Maddie felt the weight of a realization: their next choice would dictate their destiny. Jason's hand squeezed hers tightly. We can't just sit here. We need to go to the bakery. It's the only way, right? Maddie nodded, her mind racing. But with each step forward, a nagging sensation clawed at her mind. The truth was close, she could feel it, but with every revelation, the cost of that knowledge would grow heavier. And what if whatever lurked there was hungry? The fear drumming in her chest surged again as they prepared to leave. Yet, deep down, she couldn't help but wonder if they were already too far gone, and whether the price of a dark truth might not only capture their souls but also intertwine their fates with the malevolent history of Willow Creek forever. Outside, the storm escalated, a furious symphony of wind and rain, as if warning them against the path they were set to take. With a final glance at Mr. Thompson, they stepped back into the tempest. Would they uncover the truth of Emily and the bakery before the darkness consumed them whole? The rain fell heavier, the looming dread whispering of the secrets waiting just beyond reach. The wind howled through the trees, thick droplets striking the pavement with a relentless rhythm. Maddie and Jason stepped away from the flickering porch lights, each footfall splashing through the growing puddles, a reminder of the storm brewing within them. They felt their resolve waver, but adrenaline pushed them forward. The bakery was just down the road, shrouded in uncertainty and history. What if it's worse than we imagine? Jason's voice broke through the torrent, barely audible over the chaos of nature. Maddie glanced at him, fear tightening her chest. What if it's not? What if we're the only ones who can help Emily? She pulled her coat tighter as shadows darted around them, eerie and alive. It felt as if the very essence of their town was awakening, curious about their intentions. Thunder cracked overhead, booming like a monstrous heartbeat, and they hurried forward. The narrow street was draped in darkness, the only illumination coming from the occasional flash of lightning that flickered like an omen. Each time, Maddie found herself scanning the dark alleys, half expecting to see the figure re-emerging, demanding her choice. As they neared the bakery, its silhouette loomed ominously against the night sky, the window panes shattered long ago, giving the impression of sunken eyes watching their approach. The entrance was cordoned off by thick vines, twisted and gnarled like the fate they now sought. Maddie, wait, Jason said, hesitating at the threshold. There is something off about this place. Maddie's resolve faltered as she surveyed the scene. The air was dense with history, the remnants of laughter and light now buried beneath layers of dust and rumors. I know. But we have to. Before she could finish, a bone-chilling screech erupted from behind the bakery. They jumped, hearts racing. Did you hear that? Jason whispered, the tremor in his voice revealing just how terrified he was. Maddie nodded, adrenaline igniting her instincts. We need to look. It might be a clue, or it could be another trap. As maddening as the thought was, curiosity probed at her, relentless and compelling. They moved cautiously, their footsteps soft against the soggy ground. As they rounded the corner, the source of the noise revealed itself. A wooden door hung ajar, creaking on its hinges, inviting them into the inky blackness beyond. Shadows danced on the walls as the wind swept through, and the faint scent of something sweet and decayed wafted from within. Maddie took a step forward, feeling drawn into the bakery like a moth to a flame. Do you think could it be Emily? She asked, her voice trembling at the edges. Jason gulped audibly, the tension palpable as he glanced toward the door. Or whatever took her. Determined, they crossed the threshold into the dim interior. The darkness wrapped around them like a shroud, and the sound of dripping water echoed eerily. They stepped into a world that felt more dream than reality, shadows swirling in the corners, alive and whispering. Suddenly, a low growl filled the air, vibrating through the room. What was that? Jason's eyes grew wide, barely holding back panic. I don't know, Maddie breathed, her pulse racing, but we're too deep now, we can't turn back. Just then, an object clattered behind the counter, sending a jolt of electricity through her veins. Jason inched closer to Maddie, their bodies gravitating together like magnets. The bakery felt haunted, as if the walls themselves held their breath, waiting for them to unearth its secrets. And then, through the flickering shadows, a shape began to materialize, a figure standing on the other side of the room, draped in darkness, barely visible. Maddie? It called, a voice echoing with an unsettling familiarity. Her heart raced. Could it be Emily? Before she could answer, the figure stepped forward, revealing a face she had never expected. The scream caught in her throat as the horrific truth began to unfold, twisting everything she thought she knew. Was this the moment that would change everything? The authenticity of the bakery was beginning to bleed into their reality, and whatever lay ahead felt dangerous. What had they awakened, and would they be able to confront it before it consumed them too? Maddie's breath hitched as the figure stepped into the faint light filtering through the cracked windows. She recognized the face, a blending of memories long buried and nightmares freshly crafted. The hair, a tangled mess, the eyes, once filled with laughter, now dark with something like disdain. Emily? Jason whispered, his voice tremulous, inching closer to Maddie. Is that really you? The figure's lips curled into a twisted smile. Oh, they've given up on me, you know. The voice rang hollow, like a bell struck too hard. Are you here to save me? A chill crawled down Maddie's spine. The question dripped with sarcasm. She felt the weight of the bakery's darkness steeping into her bones, seeping into her thoughts. What happened? Maddie managed to say, fighting against the tide of fear that threatened to pull her under. Emily's expression shifted, eyes narrowing as she stepped further into view. They don't want you to know. A sharp hiss interrupted her, a sound echoing from the hidden corners of the room, as if something else lurked just beyond the shadows. Jason took a hesitant step back, bumping into a shelf, sending glass jars crashing to the ground. The shattering echoed like laughter in the dead air, and the growl from earlier returned, closer now, hungry. I shouldn't be here, he muttered, glancing around, desperately searching for a way out. Wait, Jason! Maddie cried, holding onto his arm. We can't leave her like this. If she is trapped, we have to help her. Emily tilted her head, assessing Maddie, the grin twisting grotesquely. Help me? No, darling. You don't understand. You're the ones in the trap. You shouldn't have returned. What are you talking about? Maddie shouted, frustration bubbling into anger. You shouldn't have come here. Emily whispered again, and just as quickly, the shadows in the room seemed to pulse, curling around the walls like a living entity. The sense of a powerful force was lurking, ready to pounce. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently. Just as Maddie felt the panic rise, an image streaked across her thoughts. Emily wasn't just a victim. Something about her changed, something sinister lurking just beneath her skin. Maddie, look! Jason shouted, pointing past Emily. Her heart thudded in her chest as she turned, eyes locking onto movement in the darkness. Shapes began to emerge around the edges of the room, the outlines of people, trapped like Emily but twisted and contorted, their faces wearing expressions of eternal anguish. Maddie stepped back, horror flooding her senses. They're not free, are they? They're caught, just like you. Oh, they love it here. Emily's voice had shifted, now dripping with menace. This is their home. As the growls grew louder, the shadows surged closer. Jason's grip tightened around Maddie's hand as the specters reached out. We need to go. Now. Not without Emily. Maddie shouted, rising above the cacophony, fighting against instinct as despair clawed at her. But when her eyes met Emily's, the truth sank in all too clear and awful. The haunted bakery was more than just a trap, it was alive, and it thrived on despair. Just accept it, Emily coaxed, her smile widening. "You'll join us soon enough." Thunder rumbled outside as the growls erupted into screams, resonating through the very essence of the building, pushing closer, a predator circling its prey. Maddie felt the darkness pressing in, wrapping around her throat. Staring into Emily's eyes now wasn't about recognition, it was about survival. Would they fight or surrender? Just then, with a final flash of lightning, something flickered in the distance, a barely visible exit, the faintest hint of light peeking through the oppressive shadows. Would that lead them to freedom, or deeper into the bakery's maw? Jason, now! Maddie couldn't think, she just had to run, but as they bolted, the shadows dissolved into a raging storm, a swirling mass of confusion and hunger, their fate hanging in the balance. What would they find at the edge of that light? Would they become part of the bakery's sinister legacy, or could they escape before the darkness swallowed them whole? Maddie's heart thundered in her chest as they lunged toward the flickering light. The shadows roared behind them, crashing like waves against a cliff. It felt alive, desperate to pull them back, to drown them in its darkness. "Run faster!" Jason yelled, his voice sharp with panic. The light flickered like a distant star, taunting them, yet Maddie felt its warmth reaching for her, urging her forward. She tightly gripped Jason's hand, feeling the sweat slick against his palm, a reminder of their shared fear, their shared fight. "What if it's a trap?" he panted, glancing back, his face pale. "What if?" "Trust me," Maddie shouted, forcing her legs to pump harder. She could almost feel the breath of the shadows, brushing against her back, whispering secrets in the dark. But she wouldn't let them in, she couldn't as they sprinted, the ground beneath them seemed to shift. Each step felt like running through a thick fog, heavy and slow. The spectral faces of those trapped around Emily blurred into one horrific mosaic of despair, eyes pleading for help, mouths forming silent screams. Maddie squeezed Jason's hand tighter. "We can't look back." Her voice wavered, but she fought to keep the fear at bay. The exit was closer now, the light no longer a mere glimmer but a growing beacon. Yet as they neared it, the dark shadows twisted, forming a wall that surged forward to block their escape. Jason stumbled, nearly losing his footing. "Maddie!" he cried, panic flaring in his eyes. "Don't stop. Just jump," Maddie urged, adrenaline surging through her veins. Fear rooted them, but instinct pushed them forward. With one last burst of energy, they lunged toward the light, a leap of faith into the unknown. The darkness clawed at their backs, icy fingers seeking to claim them as they sailed through the gap. Then silence. They tumbled into a space illuminated by a soft glow, and for a moment, there was nothing but the relief of escaping the suffocating grasp of the bakery. Maddie gasped for breath, the stillness almost disorienting after the chaos, but as her eyes adjusted, fear began to creep back in. They were not alone. The walls of the new room were lined with shelves crammed with strange artifacts, books with spines cracked open, jars filled with shifting shadows. A faded sign above them read, "Welcome to the lair of lost souls." Jason's voice shook, and she turned to see a glint of fear reflecting in his eyes. "What is this place?" She took a tentative step into the center of the room, the air thick with a sense of foreboding. It was not the sanctuary of escape she'd hoped for. The light flickered ominously, revealing faces in the shadows on the walls, faces twisted in agony, mouths opening wordlessly. Not just Emily, but countless others. "Where are we?" Maddie murmured, feeling the walls close in around her. Just a step away from the bakery, I think." Jason's voice trembled, each word echoing in waves of dread. "What if we walked into a worse trap?" As the corners of the room darkened, a low, rumbling chuckle shimmered through the air. The shadows reacted, writhing as if they were alive, forming shapes that slithered towards them. "What did you bring back with you?" A voice, rich and velvety, slithered through the air, causing Maddie's skin to crawl. "The darkness has been waiting." Maddie's heart raced. They weren't safe. They'd only traded one nightmare for another. "What do we do?" Jason whispered, backing toward the wall. But before Maddie could answer, the face of Emily reappeared, more menacing than before, her twisted smile glowing in the dim haze. "Oh, look! More souls for the bakery collection." Panic rose as they realized the truth. The bakery-esque grip extended far beyond its walls. This was a continuation of the horror, an invitation into an even darker realm. "Run!" she screamed. But Jason hesitated, eyes wide with confusion. "Where?" There was nowhere left to go as shadows danced closer. Maddie's mind raced. What was the key to this place? What held the power to turn the tide? "We'll find a way," she vowed, fear igniting a spark of determination within. Horror. There had to be something, a secret hidden among the artifacts. With a newfound resolve, she stepped forward into the shadows, her heart pounding. Would they uncover the truth and find a way out, or would they become just another part of the bakery's dreadful legacy? The weight of the unknown settled heavily around them as she reached for the nearest artifact. The momentary spark of hope faded, replaced by the chilling realization that answers lay within the darkness. What had they awakened? What other horrors awaited them in this sinister realm? The moment Maddie's fingers brushed the surface of the nearest artifact, it vibrated with an energy that jolted through her like electricity. She yanked her hand away, heart pounding wildly. The object was a small, ornate mirror, its frame etched with swirling patterns that seemed to twist and bend in the flickering light. "Look!" Jason pointed, his voice taut as a musical string. A shadowy figure materialized in the glass, a distorted reflection of their surroundings, but also something more. It shimmered with dark energy, reshaping itself into a face they both recognized: Emily. "Help me! I'm trapped!" Emily's ghostly voice echoed, but it felt wrong, like a twisted mockery. Her lips curled into a sinister smile that made Maddie's insides twist. "Don't listen to it!" Jason shouted, stepping back, dragging Maddie with him. But the allure of the mirror was strong, a magnet pulling at their consciousness, demanding attention. "We can't ignore this," Maddie argued, feeling a strange pull towards the glass. "What if she can guide us out?" Jason's eyes widened. "What if she wants to trap us like the others? We saw what happened to them." There was desperation in his voice, urgency laced with fear. The shadow surged forward, undulating like a tidal wave, and suddenly a piercing scream filled the room, a sound so filled with agony that it cracked the very air around them. The faces of the tortured souls around the walls writhed, stretching in silent screams, and Maddie felt bile creep up her throat. "No!" she shouted, almost instinctively turning toward the mirror. "What do you want?" The reflection flickered, and Emily's face changed to something grotesque, a mass of shadows with glowing eyes that blinked like dying stars. "You could have been free, Maddie. Yet here you are, so close to the exit, and yet so far." The room around them closed in, the shelves groaning under the weight of unknown voices clawing at them, begging for release. "Grab the mirror!" Maddie yelled, making a snap decision. "We might need it." With shaking hands, she lunged for it again, gripping it tight. Instantly, a flash of darkness enveloped her, pulling her deep within its depths. She gasped, the world spinning, echoes of lamentation swirling around her. "Jason!" she shouted, but her voice was swallowed up by the shadowy chaos. She felt more than saw him flailing, lost in his own panic. From the depths of the shadows came a burst of laughter, sinister and all too familiar. "You're trapped here just like me, Maddie. You can't fight the darkness." "No. I won't let you take me." Maddie surged forward, heart pounding with rage and determination. Suddenly, the mirror pulsed in her grip, and Maddie found herself standing in a vision, a flash of the bakery, the tormented souls trapped inside. She could hear their whispers groan louder. They weren't just victims, they were the keys to escape, their sorrow melding into a dark power she couldn't comprehend. "Remember who you are," came Jason's voice from the depths of the darkness. "You are stronger than this." Maddie closed her eyes, allowing fear to coalesce into strength. She turned her focus inward, searching for the resolve buried within. The shadows recoiled, as if sensing her shift. "Stay with me, Maddie," a flicker of Emily's voice whispered seductively, but it was undercut with a wail. "You belong to me." "No!" Maddie screamed, and she thrust the mirror outward, aiming it toward the swirling shadows. The room crackled with energy, resonating with her defiance. In an instant, everything exploded. Shadow screamed, light burst, and Maddie felt herself being torn apart and then, silence. Or perhaps not silence. The soft sound of music, a cheerful jingle that floated around her, beckoning and beckoning. Slowly, she opened her eyes, bewildered. She was outside again, standing on the same cracked sidewalk of the bakery, the sun shining brightly above. But that didn't feel right. The air was too still, the vibrant colors almost too saturated. Behind her, the bakery door stood ajar, an eerie welcome. "Jason?" she called out. Her voice echoed, swallowed by the stillness. Had they escaped? Or was this another trap, a new layer of darkness waiting to envelop them? As she took a hesitant step forward, the ground beneath her trembled slightly. A faint whisper curled around her ears, a promise, a threat, or perhaps both. "Oh, Maddie, the game is just beginning." Her heart raced as she braced herself, the weight of the unknown pressing down. Would this deceptive calm shift back into chaos? And where was Jason? What had she truly unleashed upon the world? Maddie stood still, heartbeat thundering against her ribs. The bakery loomed before her, its familiar scent of baked goods turned rancid in her mind, twisting memories into something sour. She reached for the door, but a sudden chill cut through her, sending goosebumps prickling along her arms. "Jason!" she shouted again, voice cracking with panic. Silence draped heavily over her, thick and suffocating. Each passing second felt like an eternity as shadows danced at the edges of her vision. The world around her seemed unnaturally bright, yet shadows lingered just out of her sight, watching, waiting for her to falter. With trembling fingers, she pushed the bakery door open wider. It creaked ominously, as if warning her against the darkness that lay within. The cheerful music resonated softly, setting her nerves on edge. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, yet hope flickered. What if Jason was inside? Stepping cautiously inside, the air shifted, thickening with an oppressive weight. The sunlight broke through the dusty windows, casting long, twisted shadows that took haunting shapes as Maddie edged deeper into the bakery. She blinked at the familiar sight, the counter piled high with pastries, the scent of coffee, and lo! the familiar chalkboard listing the day's specials. But one thing was off. The pastries were untouched, and each item was frozen in place. The laughing children and bustling patrons that once filled the bakery's cheerful atmosphere were gone. Only the music remained, an annoying reminder of what once was. "Jason?" she called again, more desperate this time. The echo returned with mocking clarity. As she moved further, a shadow darted past the corner of her eye. Maddie spun around, heart racing, adrenaline flooding her system. "Is that you?" she whispered into the shadow-tinged corner, but nothing stirred. Suddenly, everything changed. The lights flickered, and the cheerful music distorted, morphing into a dissonant cacophony of whispers, each indistinct yet filled with urgency. She strained to listen, words crashing together like waves: lost, never, return. Each syllable felt like a dagger, twisting in her gut, warning her of the grave danger lying just ahead. A sharp chill swept through the air, making her shiver. Shadows began gathering around her, swirling like a storm, and in that moment, she felt the darkness trying to seep into her mind, prying at her thoughts. Memories of Emily flooded back. The girl's tainted smile, the plea for help that held an underlying trap. Those memories morphed into taunts as Maddie wrestled with a scream that threatened to break free. "Maddie, let us out!" The voices rose higher, filling her with a dread that gnawed at her. She stumbled backward, but the shadows followed, creeping closer, demanding her attention. "No! I want to be a part of this!" Maddie shouted defiantly. She thought of Jason's words, "You are stronger than this." With determination swelling inside her, she steadied her breath, navigating through the encroaching darkness. Just then, a bright light flashed through the chaos. Her heart jolted as she turned to see Jason appear in the doorway, bruised and battered but alive. Hope ignited within her, but before she could call out, a dark figure materialized behind him, looming ominously. "Together we can end this," Jason called, desperation etched across his face. "We need to find the source of the darkness." But before Maddie could respond, the figure lunged, an amorphous mass of shadows that erupted with cruel laughter. She gritted her teeth, feeling the energy of the mirror still pulsing in her pocket, a beacon of resistance against the darkness. "Stick together!" she shouted, reaching for Jason's hand. But in that moment, darkness erupted, pulling them in different directions. The voices around them rose to a deafening pitch, drowning out everything else. Unravel the truth, Maddie. The game is not over. As they were torn apart, Maddie's scream escaped, blending with the screams of the bakery itself. What lay ahead? A path shrouded in secrets and despair. Did they have the strength to unravel it? The shadows of their worst fears loomed closer. Would the darkness claim them both, or would the truth set them free? In the chaos, one thought echoed and echoed: who was the real enemy here? And what would they each discover if they faced it together? Maddie's world exploded into chaos, the darkness pulling her in every direction, and fear gripped her like a vice. She could hear Jason's voice somewhere, calling her name, his tone laced with urgency and dread. And yet, everything around her twisted and warped into a nightmare. Maddie! Don't let go! She reached out, but the black tendrils of shadow snaked around her wrist, tightening like a noose. Panic surged through her, igniting every instinct to fight. Summoning every ounce of strength, she yanked her hand free, feeling a surge of heat from the mirror still nestled in her pocket. The shadow figure twisted, its form shifting and reshaping, as though it were a living creature intent on devouring her spirit. It laughed, a sound that scraped against her nerves, sending shivers down her spine. You can't escape. Not now, not ever. Then, a sudden burst of light flickered in her peripheral vision. It was Jason, struggling but not entirely lost. Maddie, he cried again, voice breaking against the howling winds of discontent. Stay close. With a surge of adrenaline, Maddie dashed forward, weaving through the enveloping shadows, determined to reach him. The air crackled with tension, hands grasping at her from all angles, their whispers weaving webs of doubt and despair. You're not strong enough. You'll fail. But with each step, she fought back harder. I won't listen to you, she shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony like a knife. As she drew closer to Jason, the shadows around him pulsed violently, feeding off the fear emanating from both of them. He extended his hand, and she lunged, grasping it tightly. The moment their fingers touched, a shockwave coursed through her body, igniting a fierce energy that pushed back against the darkness, if only for a moment. We need to find the source, Jason exclaimed, determination igniting in his eyes. But just as hope flickered between them, the room buckled under the weight of the shadows, collapsing inward like a sudden storm. You think you can resist? The figure taunted, drawing closer, deforming and stretching in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Maddie could barely breathe as that twisted face loomed ever nearer, a grotesque parody of someone familiar. Emily, she gasped, recognition flooding through her in a mix of relief and dread. The girl had once been a friend, a secret keeper until her dark turn. Help us, Maddie. Help us all, the pleas poured out, haunting echoes of the past mingling with the voices of despair. Emily's visage warped between sorrow and malice, a power play in this distorted game of shadows. You're the key to our freedom, but you have to let go of everything you've known. No! Maddie shouted, shaking her head violently. This isn't real. Yet deep inside, doubt crept in. A part of her wanted to believe, to understand. What truth lay behind the haunting eyes of her departed friend? Face your fears. You can't run from them. Maddie steadied herself, fighting against the darkness that threatened to engulf her. I'm not afraid of you, she cried, her voice rising in strength. I will not give in. The shadow shrieked, flaring like a wounded beast. The energy from the mirror pulsed in her pocket, resonating with her defiance, sending out tendrils of radiant light that pushed back against the encroaching dark. Struggling to focus, Maddie felt Jason's grip tighten, pulling her from the edge of despair. Together, they stood against the tide, drawing strength from each other. No matter how strong this darkness is, we'll face it together. But before they could press forward, the world around them shifted again, time fluttering like a broken clock. Laughter echoed eerily as the shadowy figure began to dissolve, merging with the walls of the bakery itself. Within the chaos, dizzying visions of their shared secrets intertwined with quick flashes of memories, each one more jarring than the last. Unravel the truth, Maddie. Only then will you be free, the shadows whispered one last time, fading into ominous silence. Taking a deep breath, Maddie felt a Weight settled in her chest. What truth? She murmured, glancing at Jason, fear etched into both their faces. Everything we've ever known, he replied, voice quaking. How deep does this really go? The shadows slithered outside of their view, the air thick with uncertainty as they braced for what was to come. Somewhere in the distance, a clock ticked loudly, the chime echoing each second like a countdown to a chilling revelation. Would they uncover the truth lurking within the shadows, or were they destined to remain trapped in this haunted nightmare? And then, from the depths of silence emerged a flicker of hope, a question hanging like the air: what mysteries still awaited them in the heart of the darkness? Maddie's heart pounded like a war drum, pulsating with a mix of terror and determination. The shadows slithered, wrapping themselves around her limbs, but she felt a flicker of something within the relentless flame of hope. We're not done yet, she shouted defiantly, her words echoing off the walls, cutting through the darkness that sought to claim them. Beside her, Jason gripped her hand, anchoring her to reality. We can get through this, Maddie. We just need to keep pushing forward. Their breaths mingled in the humid air, heavy with the weight of their fear. As if on cue, the oppressive shadows deepened, swirling like a tempest, but with their combined strength, light surged from the mirror in Maddie's pocket, illuminating the chaos around them. Stick together, she urged, feeling Jason's hand tighten around hers. The light shimmered like a beacon, pushing back against the shadows, some of which screeched in fury, recoiling from their resilience. Forming a protective barrier, that light enveloped them, and for the first time, they could see what lay ahead. The glowing exit they had glimpsed earlier now clearer, almost tangible if fueled by the urgency of the moment. Maddie shouted, "We have to run to it." Without hesitating, they bolted forward, the flickering light guiding their path. The darkness writhed and lashed out, clawing at their heels as if trying to pull them back into the depths of despair. But the light grew stronger with each wild pulse of their hearts, fueling the courage that surged within them. They raced toward the door, the shadows lunging, howling with bitter anger. It's right there, Jason yelled, pointing at the exit. In one last desperate push, Maddie felt a surge of adrenaline, and they sprang toward the threshold, crossing into the light just as the shadows erupted behind them in a ferocious wave. The world around them shifted again, and for a brief moment, everything blurred and spun. Darkness clashed with the radiant light, and then, as if someone had drawn a curtain away, everything came into focus. Maddie and Jason stumbled out onto the familiar roads of Willow Creek, the storm clouds clearing, revealing a gentle dawn breaking across the horizon. They fell to the ground, breathing heavily, hearts racing with triumph and disbelief. We did it, Jason gasped, looking around as if he couldn't quite grasp their escape. The air felt lighter, free from that weight they had carried for so long. It was as if they had emerged from a nightmare, the bakery's horrors now cloaked in the distance, the echo of its darkness fading into memory. But in the background, a chilling thought crept in. What about the others? Maddie whispered, the dawning light tinged with dread. What if they're still trapped? Jason's expression hardened, that familiar determination returning. We keep pushing. We have to find a way to free them. We can't leave them behind. As they rose, a renewed purpose filled their chests. Walk the roads of Willow Creek in this bright morning light, but they would not forget what they had confronted. The shadows might have retreated, but their existence would not be easy to forget. They had become part of a lineage of tragedies that stretched beyond mere stories, transcending the borders of life and death. They exchanged a glance, a silent promise binding them. Let us gather our friends, Maddie declared, sensing a tightening knot of bravery in her chest. We'll tell them everything. We'll figure this out together. Together, they stepped away from the bakery, bound by the reality that life held more shadows than light, yet they refused to yield. With the first rays of sunlight breaking through the dark, they knew hope was a choice worth making. And as they took that first step toward healing, their hearts synchronized, beating in defiance of the darkness waiting just beyond the edges of their light. But even as they turned to leave the remnants of the past behind, a whisper curled around them, soft yet menacing. It's not over, Maddie, the game has only just begun. Those words echoed in the wind, a chilling reminder that darkness was always just a heartbeat away, ready to reclaim its hold when least expected. And Maddie paused, standing tall with Jason beside her. Their fight was not over, but they had chosen to face whatever came next. As they walked into the new day, hope flickered brightly in their spirits, letting them know they had each other, and together, they would face whatever shadows lingered in Willow Creek. Now, hold on a second, your adventure doesn't have to end here. You need to subscribe now to catch all the exclusive stories we have lined up for you. Smash that like button now, show us your support and help feed the algorithm, so others can discover these tales too. And hey, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how this ended. We want to hear from you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Join our community and let us sail through the next eerie adventure together.